Hi, my name is Dan Lehner, and last year, in the spring of 2020, I went down to the U.S.-Mexican border to see what was going on for myself. There I met Dora Rodriguez, the founder of the organization Salvavision, and I decided to work with her right away as soon as I met her. I had already been doing a fundraiser in Ashland, Oregon. So this is my friend's art done to my poetry. He specifically did the art to each poem. And what I'm doing here is raising money for those folks who have nothing. I don't think we realize what this country's done to so many places in the world in our name. And it's time we stand up, say something, and help out. I have also put a book together called The World Without Borders, with art and my poetry, both in English and Spanish, that we are in the process of getting published. 90% of the proceeds go to Salvavision to help the folks on the border. Once the book is published, you can purchase it at salvavision.org. I will be reading poems from this book and also showing some of its art. Enjoy.
Hello, everyone. This is Peace on Mother Earth, and my name is Dan Lehner, and my guest today is Dora Rodriguez. Hello, Dora.
Hey, Dan. How are you?
Yeah, right. And we are continuing the conversation concerning the U.S.-Mexican border and the situation with the folks that are stranded down there, caught between a rock and a hard place. They're fleeing mass violence, running for their lives, violence that was instigated and fueled to this day by the United States of America. And they're fleeing, ironically, to the United States of America. And they're caught between heartlessness and heartlessness. And so we are trying to bring an end to this heartlessness. So your organization, Salvavision, is doing a lot down there. But so what exactly are these people going through? I guess we want the listener to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, let me give you about 4 different scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have the separation of families when they present at the port of entry, and this has been practiced for the last 4 years. For example, I have a family from Cuba. The man, the wife was 8 months pregnant. They presented together, and that happened in 2019. So they decided to separate them. Of course, they couldn't send the wife to detention because she was so pregnant. So instead of that, she was sent to some sponsor friends. But her husband was detained in the detention centers of Arizona, and it's called La Palma, which is one of the worst private detention centers because it's very much so like a prison. They're treated like criminals, and all they did is present to the border and ask for asylum. Eloy, Arizona has 4 private immigration, they call detention centers, but they're prisons. Like we are saying, because the treatment is the same. They're cut off from their freedom to wait for a process that for the longest time, like this family I was telling you, then they were separated for 9 months. So she had her baby while her husband was in detention. And Salvavision, our organization, was able to support this family because somehow her husband got a hold of my number and we never left him. So we help him with money from letters of support, some money to make phone calls to his wife, and from connecting him to legal aid. And that was the only reason that he was able to get out with a humanitarian parole. But that happened after the pandemic hit, and he got COVID twice at the detention center. And he was not able to get out until the lawyers keep fighting and fighting for him. So that's one scenario where people will just through. That story is the story of so many, and those are family separations. We do have families that have already their children, and they are, sent to the women are sent to sponsors or to their families here in the United States, but the husband goes to detention. So, that's one scenario. And then we have the families that were told in July 16 of 2019 that they can no longer present themselves to um, the nearest border crossing, the office of the immigration to ask for asylum. They were asked to remain in Mexico. And what that meant was that people who, we all know, these families do not have money. I mean, they come from their countries with everything they have, which is probably the backpack of clothing for them and their children. So they're staying in shelters, some of them. I have been supporting shelters all across this area for the past 5 years. And when that came in place, it was very hard to see because it gets here to 110 degrees in the summer. And some people were outside sleeping in tents with their children. Children's running all over the place with no hygiene items, with no basic humanity, how do you say, basic human things, like we are taken for granted. We have our hot meal during the day. We have our toothbrush. We have our clothing according to the weather. Well, they don't. So they were subjected to that, and I mean, they were told to stay and do that with no other choice. So the shelters got overwhelmed. And the daily life of these people is very sad to see a 3, 4, 5 year old child with no childhood, just sitting. Some of these shelters don't even have a playground. Some of these shelters are bare, with nothing. So we start bringing like bicycles or, you know, equipment for the kids to play, to be outside. Another big thing is that they don't go to school. A lot of these children and a lot of these shelters in this area, they never went to school during the waiting time because they're waiting. So it has been very hard to see these families going through that. Very, very punitive. Like you say, it's a very inhumane how these things happen. But they were there waiting. They came for a reason, and they were not gonna go back to their country where they were gonna get killed. So they prefer to be waiting with this weather, with no beds, and they're sleeping in the floor, children are playing, with the environments. I know that in winter is very, very cold, and children are just there with their parents. So that's one another situation. And then we have the deportees, the ones that get arrested by Border Patrol, and now with a Title 42, which is, that the rule due to the pandemic was that anybody who was caught at the border was processed right there and sent back to the port of entry where they got caught or around the area. So these people go back to a strange area where they don't know where they're being sent. A lot of them have blisters in their feet. A lot of them they dehydrated. They lost. Women, some of them are pregnant to the moment, almost to the time to lose their pregnancy. We just had a migrant that died of dehydration in one of the shelters in one of the border towns. So this is what we see every single day.
So the person was already dehydrated once they got there, and it was already past the point of no return.
Right. So you just picture that the border patrol that arrested him
Even make sure
could
they
have done right, could have done some examination. I know they're not doctors, but I mean, for God's sake, you can see when somebody is not right.
didn't
You
even
know, they're
they didn't even give the person water.
well, sometimes they are offered a bottle of water. That's what they tell us, you know. But when you are to the level of so much dehydration, a bottle of water is not going to save you. You know, you need medical attention,
IV.
and that's what they did. The people at the shelter at this border town took him and his other friend to the hospital, and he just couldn't make it anymore. So this is what we see, and this is the deportees. This is the people who are being expelled every single day in our borders. The numbers in the last year, the year of the pandemic, went up to about 50,000 migrants deported with less than a year in these border towns. So that's one scenario. And then, you know, we have the asylum seekers, they are with the children and not the teenagers. We're talking about the teenagers now. And now that's what the kids we're seeing crossing with no parents because the parents, you know, they feel safe if they just throw their kid and say, you go, you cross, because I know I'm gonna get arrested. They don't feel safe to cross together with that child because it's a high chance that they're gonna separate them anyways. So they, you know, they just decide to very set practice, but we have seen it where they pay the smuggler to cross their child. And it's a horrible way to do it because smugglers have no soul. These people has no heart. They're there for the money. And then, you know, remembering my story, like the three sisters, the mother trusts the smugglers to bring them, and they all three die. So this is a practice that we see every day in all these scenarios in the border towns.
Yeah,
If
I
there's
mean, how much trauma basically does a child go through even after they get back together? Um,
But you know, I mean, if we're talking about family separations, you know, we go back to the detention center where a father from Honduras was separated at the port of entry with his daughter. She was already 8 years old. He spent about 9 months or 9 to 10 months in detention. The child was sent to a foster care. Even though they had family in the United States, they did not send DHS did not send the child to her primary family. She went to a foster care. So it is a trauma for life. This is not something that they're going to be a normal thing anymore. I mean, this is a trauma that they're going to grow up with.
and this re-
Yeah.
and this reminds me of something that Americans said would never happen again was the boarding schools when they stole the children for 3 generations. They stole, systematically took the children away from their families, put them in boarding schools, and they abused them. They weren't allowed to speak their language. All these horrible. A lot of them died. Some of them died actually from abuse and whatnot. And this happened in America, Canada, and also Mexico to break these people's culture and to break their spirit. And this happened in this country over and over again for three generations. They stole Native American kids and put this trauma on them, and they're still dealing with this trauma and to this day. And it sounds like they're just doing this. It's the same thing. It's happening, but they're calling it something else. So DHS is a criminal organization in a sense, just like the churches and the government were all the way up to 70s. I think they were doing boarding schools in this country, and
Right.
now there's I've heard this from other people that they're stealing the kids, putting them in foster care when it's people that they don't like, people of color and whatnot. Certain people are being targeted this way. To this
Right.
day, on Native American reservations all across the country, they're doing this, and I imagine of other communities. But so they're doing this also on the border. It seems like just a continuation of this sad history that we have.
Oh, yes, yes. Remember that the last administration approved the zero tolerance. When the zero tolerance meant was that if a father or a mother was caught at the border with the child was going to be taken right away from them. And up to right now, we have more than 300 children that they don't know where their parents are. The parents were returned to their countries, to their home countries, and the children were left here in the United States in foster care. So, with this story about the Honduran man with his 8-year-old daughter, that man would have called me every single day, crying and crying because at first his daughter would be happy to talk to dad, but as time went on, she didn't want to talk to him anymore. She was already calling the foster father a daddy. And then here he was crying. He says, all I wanted is to bring my daughter because she suffered for an illness. And I want better medical care for her because we had nothing in Honduras. But he couldn't do anything because he was in detention. And eventually we were able to get legal aid for him, and through all these court hearings, through all this fight, he was able to get out with $10,000 bond. So, and it got reunited with his daughter. But you're talking about trauma and separation and anxiety for both ends, for the father and the daughter. And the daughter's mother had already died in Honduras from some disease she had. I cannot recall what was the health problem that she had, but this little girl had no mother. So he was the only one they wanted it to protect her. But this is very common. It has been very common in here in this practice with DHS in the last 4 years. So this is now with new administration, they're trying to clean up this mess, right? Well, it's going to take years, if that, and they cannot clean up the trauma of these children. I know for a fact that they had to do a lot of family therapy because the child was very disconnected to him. For those 10 months, she made a new family, she had a different environment. So she did not really want to have a relationship with her father anymore. And then here was the man, he's crying aloud, this is my daughter. So I know that we kept contact for a little bit, not too long anymore. So they're running their life in somewhere else in Texas. But for what I understand, and the couple of times we talked after he got out of detention and he was reunited, is that she was having nightmares. She was traumatized. She was upset with him. She did not want to be close to him. She did not accept his hugs. And so he had a lot of work to do, right? Not only with his own issue and his own trauma being in prison for no reason, just for asking asylum and protection. So
Yeah,
he had a lot of work to do to get those connections back with his daughter. But I hope by now they are in better shape. I did not follow up with them for the long run, the long term.
I'd, I'd like to read this one poem. So this poem's called Us and Them. On the border between us and them is a killing field where the innocent die, where the hate multiplies. On the border between us and them is a wall where the innocent die, where the patriots defend their religion. of hate and authority, where the children cry on the border between us and them. I guess I'd rather be them. I'd rather die than make the children cry. Wouldn't you?
The children are crying behind the wall, behind closed doors of a society old and cold. The children are crying, and the world is dying. Do you care? Do I care? How long for the wailing till we say loud and clear that yes, we do care? That yes, we do love our children. No more war, no more walls. The children are crying.
God, it's so powerful. You got me to tears. It is very, very powerful. And yes, children continue to cry because children continue to be separated from their parents. And they are, some of them, 3,000 miles away from each other. So thank you for all you do, Dan. Thank you. Eh, I hope it really opens the mind and the hearts of people who will be listening, who will be open, to learn more about what really is going on in our borders and our people. This is not numbers. They, we are humans. We are people with feelings, with hearts, with stories, and like I was saying in the segment before, with courage and strength. Because would you not get up in the middle of the night and get your little one and flee if you didn't threaten that you're gonna be killed the next day, or that next night you maybe be next. So this is very powerful. I love your poetry. I really feel that it brings so much awareness, and I really hope that it opens hearts and minds of people listening to this project. I mean, to this program.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I hope so too. It's like if we don't start waking up now, I don't know when, because it doesn't seem like we have much time left by the way things are going. But
Yeah.
yeah, if not now, when? But
Yeah. And now when that's a beautiful poem too. I
yeah,
know it by heart.
it's people like you that have inspired what I've written throughout the years. It's people like you that have given me this consciousness, and yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. But we have to pretty much close, I think, with a little bit of light, and hope that we are waking up, that we are united. There is lots and lots of organizations, lots of people with different ages, different backgrounds, working together to make a better world, to make a better place for these children, for these families. And our goal is to, bring it to the ones that write the policies to make it more humanitarian uh, laws when it comes to migration, to immigration. Yeah.
yeah, you're right. So this one's called Light at the End.
Yes. I like to close with something positive, because it can be very heavy, very sad, very dark.
You're right.
But but we bring light. We do bring light. Each of us, they are working very hard to show up and be present.
So this one's called Light at the End. I think I see the light. It's towards the end. So don't just give up the fight. We are all friends. Sure, it's been a long night, but don't you see the light in you and me? May we all live and die together as petals of the same flower. I see the light, the sun ever so bright, the flowers, all souls blossoming, reaching for eternity towards the sun ever so bright. Peace on Mother Earth.
It's so beautiful. Thank you, Dan.
I've written this book of poetry called A World Without Borders, and it's got a lot of my poems in it, and it's also got like each poem has some art to go with it. Well, that one's actually happens to be one that came out of the detention center. Sorry. Anyways, so we're trying to raise money this way, and through and donations go to Salvavision. And if you want to donate some money to the border, it's you go to salvavision.org. That's SALVAVISION.org. And you can get some of these cards that we had made, which has just one poem with the art. And also it's been translated, so we're in the process of having each poem being bilingual, which is really cool. So it's a fundraiser to go to the border through this organization called Salvavision. Anyways, so you can donate now if you want, and people greatly appreciate it. I'm trying, to get the word out, and to get to open people's heart back up, to get compassion flowing again, because it's like all this fear about dying, it ain't gonna cut it, because without compassion, without love, we're the walking dead. We're zombies, and we need to reach out to each other. Okay, so we're at the end of the program now. I'd like to thank Dora Rodriguez for her time and for what she's doing on the border. If you want to help out, just click on salvavision.org and make a donation and get a cool card with my poetry and some really beautiful art with it. Anyways, that's all for today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan.